Welcome all to the Jason Madonna Shawnee High School football recap show, along with a preview of the upcoming week where we start the real football season at Tulsa East Central this Friday night. Coach Jason Madonna, thank you for being with us, man.
No problem. Thank you.
So let me open the floor to you first. Just give us your thoughts on Friday night, how you feel it went, what you feel like you guys got to work on, and how you feel coming out of the pre-district season.
Yeah, we're going back to Friday. We're obviously disappointed. We don't feel like we reached our full potential, which stinks because you only get 10 opportunities. And so I think we're progressing. Maybe we thought we were a little better than what we are, but we got some guys that are filling in new spots and learning new positions, and they're growing. And, we made a lot of strides in some areas and kind of went backwards in other areas. And so we're optimistic, though. I like the group we have. The record doesn't show it, but I think we're improving. And I think we faced an Ardmore team last week and a Duncan team this past Friday that are much improved from a year ago. And they kind of caught us in a stage where we're still developing. But we'll take those lessons with us into district play now. And we've seen kind of all different kind of styles of football, which is what we want to be exposed to. And, we kind of put it together week one. We had a good offensive showing week two and maybe didn't perform up to par defensively. And then last week, I think it was opposite. I think we played really well defensively and just could not find the big play and just could not find the next gear offensively. But we come back with East Central this week in our first district game and hopefully put it together and start the momentum towards a playoff push.
Well, one thing that was positive coming out of last week was you got a lot of players in there making a difference that you never know when you're going to need to depend on the extra players, and especially a couple of young ones showed up. First of all, I'd like you to talk a little bit about your Tal Leone.
Yeah, very proud of Tal. He found out in the middle of the week that he was going to have to go due to circumstances outside of our control. And so he really locked in. And the biggest attribute that he has is his maturity. He never gets rushed. He never gets panicked. And so we trusted him with that opportunity. I think you saw that. I mean, there were several times where the snap was off or hit the ground or, something wasn't just right. And he never made it detrimental. He always just kind of found a way to make the play and do the right thing. And we tried not to load too much onto his plate, and he handled it really well, I believe.
I do too. I think that Tal ended up with 171 yards passing on a good night. In the sense from that side, he was 19 of 32. He did have the one interception, which was really a sophomore mistake. But other than that, one play, really, I thought he showed a lot of quiet leadership and not so quiet leadership. Again, on the defensive side, right there on the end, you see big number 24, Riley Story, another sophomore. He's showing more and more leadership, and he, I believe, led the team in tackles. I know he led them in tackles for a loss. Talk a little bit about Riley's story.
Yeah, he's just a young man that's continuously gotten better. He being a sophomore and being new to Shawnee, just kept playing and grinding and learning and playing. And last week before Duncan, the Ardmore matchup was a tough matchup for him. I mean, the young man that he was going against was 6'4", 340, and that was a different kind of physicality. And Riley stayed strong, stayed through it. And so this week he kind of got cut loose a little bit, didn't have that same type of game. This fit his style a little more. And the majority of his tackles came from just his effort, just pursuing the ball from the backside and making the play that was away from him. So we're really proud of him, really happy with his development. And I think, along this season and future seasons to come, he's really going to make a name for himself as a dominant force over there.
Now, another one, not a sophomore, but he showed himself big on a couple of different players. And I noticed him popping in where you needed to fill. And it's always great to have a player like that. And that is Wilson Mason. Talk a little bit about his effort on Friday night.
Yeah, so Mason Wilson is a senior, really smart player. You know, and so he's able to kind of fill in at multiple roles for us. You know, he can fill in at just about any linebacker spot, and he's our H back for us on offense, the fullback. And so he in a tough situation, he took a screen and got us into a little bit better field position down the sideline, and then you know, did a pretty good job all night, just kind of blocking up for us and outside of that, and did a good job of filling in what needed to be on defense. So he you know, he's a versatile football player that brings a lot of just smarts and fast processing, and so he can do a lot of different things, and it's super benefit for us to have.
Well, he might have been the chief of police if I keep calling him Mason Wilson. It's Wilson Mason, right?
His first name is Mason.
So it's Mason Wilson. Two Mason Wilsons. Got it. Thank you for that. And next, I want to call up another sophomore who is seeing more and more of the playing field on both sides of the ball, and that would be Drake Estella.
Yeah, no, and Drake is just a good, tough football player. You know, and he's really solidified himself as a quality receiver for us. He comes in when we go to 4 wide receivers. He's the 4th wide receiver, and he's done a really good job. He just kind of finds space. He's got secured hands. And then he did a good job after the catch on a couple occasions. You know, he caught an out route, broke a tackle, turned up the sideline, and got us a crucial 3rd down conversion. And so he's just a young man you can trust. And that's the thing when it comes to sophomores, you know, you got to be able to trust them that they're not going to get overwhelmed in the moment, because it can get intense on Friday night with the crowd and the band and you know, you only get 10 opportunities and everybody puts a lot of stake into it. It's a big production. So to have those mature young men be able to step up and be big contributors to us is not only good for this season, but good for the future.
Definitely. And somebody who stepped up as well, had a pretty good game on both sides of the ball, Ramel Slaughter. Talk a little bit about Ramel and the junior playmaking ability.
Yeah, we leading up into this game, we just hadn't been able to get the ball in his hand enough, and the game plan that Duncan had called for us to need to be able to throw the ball out laterally more to try to get some more space in the box, and he did a really good job of catching the ball and getting vertical, and you know, we still didn't get the deep connection that we are looking for at times with him that he's capable of, but he did a really good job of just staying patient, catching the quick screens, catching the hitches, and then able to turn those into positivity. So and then defensively, you know, he's back there at a safety spot, kind of roaming, and I think they only threw for 38 yards.
Mm-hmm.
He was a big part of not letting any ball go deep over the middle.
So talk a little bit about that coach. It was the run game this week that really hurt us. How did that happen? And you know, is that kind of what we were anticipating coming from them with the big guys they had in the backfield?
Yeah, you know, their running back is well built, and their quarterback is a 100-meter guy, track speed, and so we knew that was going to be the bulk of their production. We thought that they may try to throw it a little bit more, but I think in part we did a good job for the first 3 quarters of containing them and not allowing them to get the big play, but we weren't good enough as a team, so our defense was just out there way too long. We didn't do a good enough job sustaining drives and scoring points. And you know, as much as we all want these 15 to 17-year-olds to be mature and grown men, when you're in a tough battle like that, and then you go through a sequence that makes you feel like the game's not in your favor, it's tough to bounce back emotionally from that. And we kind of had a sequence there in the 3rd quarter where things didn't go well for us, and we didn't respond in the best way, and that's part of our growth process. We got to mature from that. We got to be able to stick our foot in the ground and bow up and overcome the adversity, and some of that is just lack of experience in those moments. Last year's team, we had a lot of veterans that have been through some tough times, and they felt that. Now we got some young guys that haven't been there yet, and they're experiencing it right now, and so it's going to pay off for us in the future. I know it stinks right now, sitting at 1-2, we all had some high expectations, but we're learning those valuable lessons that are going to pay off. We just, when they do pay off, we'll all feel better about it. But right now, it stinks to go through those tough times.
Yeah, it does. And one of those moments, again, big play, McClendon busts it out for a 68-yard touchdown. And, for me, I'm an adult, but there was a moment because I thought they were calling a penalty on this particular play right there, which I'm not sure if that's a block in the back, if it's not a block in the back. I kind of went off on the officiating right there. And it's kind of what you said, Coach. Just it was a culmination of moments, because just before that, what had happened was we had a tremendous high. We had given them good field position, and our defense at about our 30-yard line, maybe 25, made a stand where they were at 2nd and 1. And we pushed them back to 2nd or 3rd and 3. Then they got within 1, and we stopped them, and we got the turnover on downs. What a great sequence of events, because we were still holding on to a 10-7 lead in that moment. Then we came in and we had our sophomore make a sophomore mistake, and we gave the ball right back to them after just seconds, really. I think it was a second play after the fourth, after we had stopped them on the 4th, and we gave it to them 1st and 10 from the 12. Talk about that in the sense of the defense came back and was pretty tough from the 12-yard line, but we give up that touchdown. I think that's the sequence of events in the 3rd quarter you're talking about. And I'd love to hear your perspective on, what really happened right there, because it was about 5 or 6 plays. It wasn't one play, but it was an up, a down, an up, a down, and an up, and then a down, and then another down that really kind of took us away. Talk a little bit about that sequence for us.
It was, we talked about at halftime that we didn't know, exactly what play we're going to need to make, but we're going to need to make plays to win the game. And we come out and, they have pretty good field position, I think, off of a short punt. And we hold them to 4th down, like you talked about, and we get that conversion. And then we don't get a lot on 1st down. And we do a rollout pass, and we just have a breakdown in protection. So he's got more pressure than he should have had. And the wide receiver is open. He made the right read, and he's trying to put the ball. He just can't get enough on it because he's got pressure on him. And so it ends up being short. It ends up being intercepted. And then we come back, and even after the interception, I think we had him in 2nd and long or 3rd and long, and we bring a blitz off the edge. And we have their quarterback dead to rights, and there's 2 guys there to tackle him, and he somehow slips out of it and ends up scoring a touchdown off of it. And so we get the ball back. We hit the big slip screen you're talking about to Mason Wilson, and then we hit the big home run that we were kind of waiting on, and we finally get it. And when they called it back, we just had a young man just make an inappropriate decision as they're running down the field. He shoulder checked defender that made him fall down, and you just can't do that. When the plays broke away like that, you just got to leave it alone, and you got to just get out of the way and let them score. And we didn't do that. And it stinks, because I think that broke us spiritually. And as much as you want to preach about being tough and staying tough, when you're a young man and you finally feel like you've had some negative and you feel that positivity come, just to have it stripped away from you like that. And then we don't end up scoring. We end up turning over on downs on that drive. And then I think it was really hard for us to respond at that moment. And so with such a young team, those are lessons that we're having to learn the hard way. And, and so hopefully in the future we learn from that and we don't do that, and it helps us win those ball games. But it didn't Friday night. And we have to own that. We have to own that, because at that point it would have been 17-14. We have the lead. We have some momentum. We're getting ready to kick off. And so the way our defense was playing, I feel confident that we would have given ourselves a chance at the end. Now, who knows? Would we have still won the game? Would they have made a play? We don't know. But it's disappointing that we didn't give ourselves that opportunity because of a self-inflicted wound. And that's kind of been the story of our immaturity, is that we are, we're not significantly consistent in making those plays. And so, and it gets frustrating. It gets frustrating for the kids too, because, you know, we get penalties thrown on us, and we don't feel like that gets reciprocated. And then you go to the very first goal line session of the game on the first drive, run a 2-yard line, and they cut our fullback, which is illegal, and they throw a flag. So we think we're getting ready to get half the distance, and they call a penalty on us. And you can't see it on film, so we don't really know where the penalty was. But it's just like those things over the course of the game. You know, as adults, we get frustrated. We're able to handle it more, but as kids, that frustration sets in, and so when you're under the tent, you're having to try to, you know, calm them down and get them to realize they need to control their emotions and stay mature. And so part of our growth process, we'll learn from it. You know, we're getting ready to start the district play, and, you know, I wouldn't want to be in a room with any other group of kids. So,
well, that's what we appreciate so much about you, is just how you like to take care of our kids. And, you know, for one, I'm an adult, and it's emotional sitting there in the stands. You know, the example I just gave, I was wrong. I misread what the officials actually called. And I talk about that you know, that's what actually happened, when no, there was a different play that I didn't notice, and they had made the right call. And, you know, that's, you know, me being like a teenager, you know, and it hits all of us, and we can realize that as we watch these young men grow in front of our eyes, is that, you know, all of us kind of have different perspectives, but it's an emotional roller coaster, especially when it's a 14-10 or a 10-7 ball game, and we are invested with those young men. And that's what makes it fun. That's what makes sports fun. Don't you think, Coach?
Absolutely. You know, that's what keeps us young, or sometimes forces us to be old. But, you know, there's not a lot of opportunities for these kids to showcase their talents in front of, you know, crowds of thousands of people, and broadcast it on the internet. And, you know, so there's a lot, even though it's high school football, at the end of the day, it's high school football, but the lessons that they learn hope from and make them better men in the future. But, you know, it still feels, you know, like it's a lot, you know, like it's a big, and it is a big deal, especially in a community like this that comes out and supports us so well, and all the things that they've done since the tornado recovery to make our program, you know, feel like a top-notch program. And so we appreciate that. We understand that the kids do as well. And they're working hard, and they realize, you know, it's tough on them. It is as bad as you feel as a fan. It's 10 times worse on the kids when they don't come away with a victory.
Certainly understand that, and a shout out to the Spirit Squads, who always travel so well and keep the parents going and engaged. And it had to feel good looking behind you, the travelers who had made that 2-hour trip to support you, Coach, and the boys as a team. That always feels good. But I want to bring up another thing that I know that you like, and we're talking about team building, is that St. Benedict's team meal that we have, the St. Benedict's Carnival, of course, coming up. They call it the Fall Festival, the first weekend in October. Granny's Attics opens at 9, the festivities at 10. It's always a fun time for everybody. Coach, how about the City Bites showing up last week at St. Benedict's?
Yeah, really good. City Bites is a good meal, and that cookie, you know, you can't beat. So it's just a cool experience, you know, just to sit down and be able to chat up and talk about different things, and for the kids to kind of, you know, our day is rushed. You know, our day is rushed. They start school, they go through 6 classes, they come in, they lift weights, they practice for 2.5 hours, they go home, they have homework, some of them have jobs, and they don't get a lot of time just to sit down and be kids. They get a little bit, 40 minutes at lunchtime, and so for us to have an opportunity built in the week where we can sit down as a team and just, you know, talk life and communicate. And it's good for us coaches too. We sit at our coach's table, and we get to, you know, tease the different kids on different things, and they get to realize how much this community supports them, and with a nice nutritious meal on the day before a game. And so, and all of our kids come. We, you know, the community feeds all of them, the freshmen, the managers, the filmers, everybody. So it really is a blessing, and we can't be thankful enough to St. Benedict's and all the different sponsors and you for helping us organize that. And it's a really neat deal. Hopefully we can continue it for as long as we play football in Shawnee.
Yeah, well, that's the plan for sure. Three young men I'd really like to talk about. First of all, KD, we've seen already so many big plays by this young man. Didn't have probably what he would say his best night. He came in strong. How are you feeling about the senior? Talk a little bit about KD.
Yeah, we weren't able to get him as loose in open space as we had in the past, and so I know he felt a little bit of that, you know, because he's a competitor. You know, he wants to win. He wants to do well. You know, he wants to make those explosive plays for us. He wants to score, and we just weren't able to get him loose. And part of that is credit to Duncan and their game plan. And so, you know, what we have to realize, what KD has to realize is now when he's shown his talents and abilities, he's going to be part of the defensive game plan. So those other teams, when they sit in there on Sundays, just like we're doing right now, and they game plan, they're going to try to figure out how to stop 6, how to bottle up 3, how to contain 4 and 13. And so he's going to be part of that focal point. So now the challenge for us offensively is to find different ways to get him the ball and let him have an opportunity to use his abilities and be explosive.
Yeah, you've been trying with the Wildcat. I know down low, that was another, just at the end, the guys really had shown a lot of grit, taking that last drive that we had for about 70 yards, overcoming a 4th down in that drive, some big 3rd downs. We got within a couple of feet, and we just weren't able to put that across. But one of those that you're talking about, just being able to, you know, stay in there and fight. KD, definitely a fighter. And what about Story and how he played on the road as a sophomore?
Yeah, like we touched on earlier, his effort was amazing, just all night long, using his athletic ability to chase down plays from the backside. And when you have a quarterback that's as fast as what they had at Duncan, it's a big responsibility on those defensive ends to keep him contained and not let him hit the edge and get down the sideline. And I think we did that. He had one big run there in the 4th quarter where he kind of got loose up the middle, and then he had the big touchdown play where we had him bottled up in the backfield, and he was able to get loose. But as far as like hitting the edge and taking it down the sideline, he wasn't able to do that on Friday night. And Riley Story and on the other side, Jaden Smith had a big part in that.
Yeah, and then wrapping it all up, can't say enough about the sophomore signal caller. He really showed a lot of composure, I thought. Coach, talk a little bit again about Talione to close us out.
Yeah, he did. You know, that's one of his biggest strengths is he's just a mature young man. He's selfless. You know, he just wants what's best for the team. And so he stepped up in a tough moment and managed the game. You know, even the interception that he threw, that's not 100% on him. Our protection broke down. But when he's looking at it, he's going to be thinking about, did he get enough depth on his drop? You know, did he get his shoulders turned in time? So that's you know, the cool thing about him is he's never going to blame anybody else. He's always going to look internal and figure out what he needs to do better and continue his process of developing as a quarterback. And so, you know, you can tell his maturity when you watch him as a freshman starting on the baseball team and the consistency he showed at the plate, on the mound, and in the field. And so he's just a mature young man, and he brings that calming presence. And I think the other guys really respect that and respect him for it.
Yes, and Coach, a big turnout we hope for East Central, 7 p.m. kickoff in Tulsa this Friday night. It's the beginning of a district season, and we need to go take care of business, don't we, Coach?
We do. You know, we kind of put together a good game versus PC North, and then we've had opposite games in our 2 losses, and hopefully we can put it all together and have a quality showing and continue growing and go take care of business at East Central. Last year they came to us, and it was a tough ball game that we were able to pull away at the end, and they've got some talent over there. And so hopefully we can have a great week of practice, and we can get the ship righted and get back on the winning track and continue to get better.
Well, Shawnee, you've always traveled well. This is no week to stop as district play opens up in Tulsa this Friday night. Everybody come on out, join with us, ShawneeCTV, because remember, Shawnee, all of us, together, we build community, one season at a time. For Coach Jason Madonna, Coach, thank you very much for your time, as always.
No problem.